Welcome to a new season in which we're going to be doing an Equal Cars career mode with Dylan, but it's going to be slightly different because we are trying to basically do an investigation to see which AI driver is the fastest in the game. Dylan will be racing, but I'll actually be spectating, so we can see all of the battles between the best drivers on the grids. And yeah, any predictions really? Who do you think is going to do well in this career mode, considering every car is now equal? Any drivers do you think that will stand out?
Leclerc, Alonso, Ocon, Hulkenberg.
Okay, so
are my few drivers.
As I retire, I can have a little spectate, and you can see Leclerc already into P2, and Hamilton is P1. So as we go on to the proper spectate cam, you can see Hamilton P1, Leclerc is P2. So Leclerc doing really well. Verstappen P3, Vettel P4, Bottas P5. Shadi Onyx has had quite a bad start. I don't know what's happened to him. You can see the two Haas cars also squabbling, but on board with Leclerc doing really well. And as we scroll down to Vettel, Vettel is currently in 4th place. So one of the guys I would think will be near the front, but I don't know what's happened to Shadi Onyx off the start. We're actually going to go on board with him because he is even behind Marcus Ericsson, so it's not going well for him. It's actually, no, he's overtaken Marcus Ericsson, so he's finally up into 18th place in qualifying. You can see Van Dorn actually in P10. That's a big surprise. Alonso not doing as well as I thought he would. As we go back to the front, Hamilton, the ever dominant guy in qualifying, is out in front right now. Of course, he's really good at China, and it's showing right now. But Leclerc, the Ferrari hopeful, who's going to be driving for Ferrari in 2019 in P2. So, yeah, doing really well. As Shadi Onyx now up to 12th place. So, he's basically now even up into 10th now. So, he's done a really good comeback considering he had such a bad start. As you can see, only 19 runners because I'm spectating, but Max Verstappen has been in P3 for the whole lap. The top 4 remains unchanged as Shadi Onyx spins, so he's going to be starting at the back of the grid, so that's quite unfortunate. But yeah, you can see Max Verstappen will cross the line in P3. Hamilton gets pole from Charles Leclerc, then Verstappen, then Vettel, but you can see it all really close. And yeah, it's basically all done within less than a second, so I couldn't even read off the final order. But oh wow, you've managed to get one person even after a spin. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's quite good going. Right, so as we actually go on to the first actual qualifying, you see Hamilton a 10th ahead of Leclerc in the end. So Hamilton a bit clear of everyone else, but that's to be expected. He is the qualifying god after all. Verstappen half a tenth of a second behind Leclerc. Leclerc doing amazingly though to out-qualify Vettel, who's going to be his teammate next year. So incredible stuff, and it's nice to know that Codemasters have put time and thought into their game. Bottas is in P5. Behind him is Daniel Ricciardo. Sainz doing really well in P7 actually to out-qualify Hulkenberg. And you can see Gasly in P8. The two McLarens 9th and 10th. So Van Dorn doing really well to keep up with Alonso. And Raikkonen P11. So yeah, I probably would have expected him a bit higher, maybe even above Bottas. But as we go to the bottom, it's your usual culprits. In the fact it's Marcus Ericsson. And yeah, we've got Sergio Perez, who's actually surprisingly down there. But yeah, that's the final order. So as we go into the race, I will retire as soon as possible so we can see all the action unfold into turn 1, hopefully. So, of course, I can only really retire after the race begins, so I might miss a bit of the action, but we'll see what we can catch. Anyway, you can see Shadi Onyx is going to start directly ahead of me, so he's got a lot of work to do, but I'm mostly going to be focusing on the front. Of course, that's where all the action's probably going to be, so as we wait for the lights to go out, waiting patiently. And now we can retire. So, as we retire from the session, you can see it's actually quite an even getaway. But it was actually, as we turn our attention towards the front, and there we are. It is Lewis Hamilton.
What a legal overtake!
Leclerc. So Leclerc in P2, ahead of Sebastian Vettel in P3 still. So you can see Verstappen up the inside of Vettel, and Verstappen is trying to force his way.
You caused the yellow flag.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, because you retired. You caused a yellow flag so no one could overtake.
Oh, sorry. And that's probably why Verstappen's leaving it until this corner to try to go around the outside of Vettel. He doesn't quite make it. Bottas behind Verstappen as well, just really tucking in. So, yeah, the top 5 settling down a bit. But you can see Verstappen all over the back of Vettel. Leclerc's actually been able to pull away a bit. But Hamilton's already nearly got a second gap out front. Ricciardo keeping with them quite well, but there's no real major gaps. I think the biggest gap actually goes right down to Grosjean, who's already a second behind Sergio Perez, and he's coming under attack from Shadi Onyx, who has managed to get one position off the start even after yellow flags. So as you go back to the front, Leclerc already a second behind Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton already out of DRS range, and he is really doing a Hamilton right now. But Vettel is actually quite close to Leclerc and might be able to slipstream him on the straight. Of course, Leclerc already out of the DRS range of Hamilton. And yeah, of course, Leclerc having a really good qualifying, but he's not the best driver, and he's actually when you compare him to some of the all-time greats. And here comes Vettel. He's going to go round the outside, of course, in equal machinery, but it doesn't matter. But Leclerc's going to fight him, and this is why he's a future F1 champion in the making. He tries to fight Vettel, but unlike Verstappen, he can't actually hold off the likes of these drivers so far. But you see Verstappen is actually a bit behind them, so as Hamilton already has a 2-second gap over Vettel. He's completely blitzed the competition, as he so often does. Yeah, Leclerc meanwhile up the inside of Vettel again. He's actually trying to get the position back, and this is the two future teammates side by side. And credit to Leclerc, he's outperforming the greats, including Verstappen, who is also a child prodigy, as you like. But you can see as Verstappen's going to slipstream Leclerc. He's going to be quite close into the next few corners, as Verstappen just trying to tuck in behind Leclerc, and that's going to be well, Verstappen remains in P4 as we scroll down to Valtteri Bottas. He is slightly behind these guys, but Hamilton a great lead out front. If you go back on board with Shani Onyx back in 17th place, and he's had an alright start. He's gained 2 positions, but yeah, just trying to gain on Perez. Yeah,
Perez just closed the door on me.
Oh, that's probably why you're still behind him. But you can see Leclerc is beginning to drop back from Vettel now, and he's coming under attack from Verstappen. And you can see Bottas has actually got past Ricciardo. So yeah, Sainz still in P7, so there's tons of action so far. But Hamilton is completely blitzed everyone, so I think that's the last time we're going to be looking at him. But we're going to be looking at the battle for P3, because Vettel is setting off in chase of Hamilton. You can see he's matching his sectors literally to the millisecond. It's actually Leclerc who's falling behind, but as they all close up to each other on the slipstream train, there's no more moves. You go back down the grid, I think Alonso is actually behind Stoffel Van Dorn. So Van Dorn doing bits in that McLaren. Of course, they all are equal cars, but to be ahead of Alonso is quite an accolade. As we go back down through the order, as Hamilton sets in another fast lap, Vettel could not match it. He's beginning to drop back, and it looks like Hamilton might have this in the bag. Codemasters obviously thinking he is the better driver at this moment in time, but you can see as well Shani Onyx closing back up into Perez, so it should be an interesting battle down bottom. Of course, Shani Onyx is representing Sergei Sorokin, I think, as we go back on board. Yep. Is it Sergei Sorokin? I think it is. So as we go back at the front, Hamilton in a no man's land right now. He's completely clear of everyone else. Vettel is sort of keeping with him. It's going to be interesting to see how the strategy unfolds. But right now it is 2.5 seconds behind, so not looking too great. But you see Leclerc as well, also out of DRS range of Vettel. So Vettel just has had the legs over Leclerc. But Leclerc doing absolute wonders to start P2. But he's going to quickly come under attack from Bottas, Verstappen and Ricciardo. Meanwhile, Raikkonen, yeah, a bit of a surprise package really. He's sort of outside the top 10. Him and Alonso really, I would have expected to be slightly further up, considering the likes of Leclerc is doing so well. But you obviously, yeah, at this moment in time, I mean, it's
I have front wing damage.
It depends on the track, but you see, Shani Onyx actually got past Perez in the end, but he has got front wing damage, so it looks like his race has gone from bad to worse. But yeah, Brendan Hartley as well in P12. It's not doing as well as Pierre Gasly, but still, near the points, which is quite good for Hartley. As you look further back, he's outperforming the likes of, to be honest, Ocon, Hulkenberg and Magnussen, as well as Perez and Grosjean really. All midfield runners which are near the bottom. And of course, Ericsson is at the back, but the likes of Van Dorn are also doing quite well, considering he's sort of struggled this year. So it can sort of be pinned down to the machinery, I suppose. I think the game's trying to tell us. Yeah. You can see as well, as we head a bit more forward, it's still the same top 5. Of course, Bottas getting Ricciardo quite early on, and yeah, it's a bit of a train behind Leclerc. Leclerc is still managing to hold on to P3, so he's doing really well right now. As you look at, there's not really many major gaps. As Magnussen, actually, I think Shani Onyx is already in the pits. So you can probably correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, no, he re-overtakes Perez. So I don't know what happened there. He just fell 2 positions behind. I think he's in a battle with Magnussen and Perez right now. So all very interesting. But you see, as we go in front, you can see Leclerc is at the lead of the train. If we go a bit behind, you can see Alonso as well. There's not really many overtakes going on in this section. You can see Alonso all over the back of Van Dorn. He's all over the back of Gasly and Sainz as well, keeping on with the lead group. So right now we've got a train all the way down to effectively P15, and you can see Magnussen's a bit behind Hulkenberg, and Shani Onyx is a bit behind Magnussen. So even with front wing damage, he has a chance to sort of get ahead of Magnussen and then get onto the back of the train. Of course, he will have to take that 5 second stop go, but effectively 5 second stop go for wing damage. But yeah, even so, he has probably got the pace to get back into the points, which is currently occupied by Fernando Alonso. As you see,
Much
all
better
going
runner Magnussen.
But you can see, actually, that's a change of position. It is Leclerc battling with Max Verstappen, the two young protagonists, well behind Vettel at this rate, who is keeping within the 10th of Hamilton, just showing how good a drivers they are. But Vettel's in the pits, and so's Hamilton. Meanwhile, Leclerc gets ferried out, and there's quite a lot of guys in the pits, actually. As you can see, I think that's Ricciardo in the pits, Alonso in the pits. So all the front runners sort of going in the pits. That's Hulkenberg in the pits, as Bottas is now all over the back of Leclerc. Sainz is behind him. But you can see, I think Verstappen will assume the lead as both the leaders go into the pits.
Vettel's been held up a ton.
So, yeah, what's happened to Vettel? So, Vettel is...
He got caught by the train and had to be held.
Me. So, he was 2.3 seconds behind Hamilton. Let's see how far he is now. He's still going to come out effective P2, just ahead of Ricciardo. So, that's how much time he lost, considering Ricciardo is P6. And the gap is, if I could correct you...
I beat Alonso out.
The gap is currently 10.6 seconds. So... yeah, a massive gap between Vettel and Hamilton, so he's lost out 8 seconds in the pits. Meanwhile, you see Charles Leclerc is still over the back of Verstappen, but he's coming under increasing pressure from Valtteri Bottas, so Leclerc could even be a net P3 still, all things considered, because Vettel's been held a right streak, but Hamilton right now is, yeah, looking brilliant as ever. He's in clear air as well, so he can really put his pedal to the metal, so to speak. There you can see the likes of some other the pitters. Shadi Onyx actually jumping Alonso, so Alonso's race going from bad to worse as we go near the front again. We're expecting most of the others to pit as well. You can see Bottas all over the back of Leclerc. He's not going to go for a move just yet, but he might be able to jump him in the pits. Of course, it is equal cars, even so Mercedes is still going to have slightly better pit crews than Sauber, so Leclerc might easily be jumped as all three of them go into the pits, and I don't imagine anyone will be staying out, so it'll be really interesting to be on board with these guys as we you can see everyone is in the pits all the way down to Kimi Raikkonen and Magnussen, so it's going to be really interesting to see where Hamilton comes out. We're expecting him to be in first, but Ricciardo has caught Sebastian Vettel, who is fallen down another position, so this could be net P7 for Vettel. It's not worked well in him for the pits.
Alonso grabbing a position off me, but I switched back to the inside.
Vettel is all over the place on the driving, Dylan. I think something must be wrong with his car, as Ricciardo is going to rejoin. He's going to rejoin behind this little train. Verstappen is being jumped by Raikkonen. Raikkonen somehow has jumped all of them in the pit, so is Bottas. And we have Leclerc in P2. So Verstappen has been held. Leclerc is now in P2 again, 8.4 seconds behind Hamilton. Bottas and Raikkonen have jumped to Verstappen, of course, with equal cars, and they're being so close to get together. It is all decided in the pits, and Verstappen has been the big loser from 2nd to 5th. He's nearly been jumped by his teammate Ricciardo, who's now right behind him, but Leclerc back into P2. Bottas P3, and Raikkonen, after being 11th on the grid, has literally gained all his positions in the pit lane.
Constructors are all together. Haas, Toro Rosso, McLaren, and Renault.
Yep,
they're all like next to each other.
Well, that's at the back. At the front, we've got Force India's sort of together, but Vettel is P8. That's how much he's lost out. Him and Verstappen have lost out from effectively P2. And here, Hamilton is in a land of his own right now. A 10-second gap on equal cars, just showing how much of a good driver he is. But arguably, Vettel would have been up there if he hasn't been having so many issues. Vettel's now down to P9. So now it is truly 2x2x2. As Vettel now allows the Force Indias to both overtake him, and there is something seriously wrong with Vettel's car. It's not just the pit lane, as Vettel is now going to get overtaken by Carlos Sainz. It's all going wrong for a championship protagonist in Sebastian Vettel in our 12 race season. But you can see Carlos Sainz locks up. This is going to be Hulkenberg's chance to go around the outside. Hulkenberg arguably the better driver, but he's going to see if he can go around the outside of Sainz. Sainz is going to defend it, and Sainz is going to hold on to the position. But really interesting, but Hulkenberg's going to go up the inside, and this is allowing Vettel to have a bit of a gap. But it's only a matter of time before Vettel falls foul of even more people. There's something seriously wrong with his car. Meanwhile, Leclerc has actually got a DRS gap to Bottas, but you can see he's squiggling a bit on his tyres. So he is getting reeled in at a rate of knots. And talking about getting reeled in, Hamilton is completely dropping these guys. The gap is now extended another 6 tenths to 9.2 seconds. So Hamilton in a league of his own this race. Of course, him being good at China helps. But yeah, again, Hulkenberg has got Sainz, but they're still side by side, the two Renaults. And this is a really good battle. Sainz overtakes Hulkenberg, but Hulkenberg's going to have the outside line. And it looks like Sainz has got the measure of his teammate. It means that Hulkenberg still will have that inside line going into the left, the long left-hander, which will then turn into a right-hander. Can Hulkenberg get a lot of his nose alongside? He actually doesn't, and Sainz looks like he's going to defend, but Hulkenberg's still there. Still, they're going to go side by side. This is the sort of battles you can see with the AI, and they still haven't got Vettel yet. He's completely dropped off the back of Perez. The two Renault drivers squabbling for the last points, even so they should both get points, because Vettel is really struggling, but they're still side by side. They're swapping and changing positions, and Sainz finally gets the better of his teammate. But they're both probably going to get the DRS toe on Vettel, and they both should be able to get Vettel, because there's something definitely wrong with Vettel's car, as you can see Sainz gaining rapidly. So even though they've been side by side the whole lap, they still are right behind Vettel. And yeah, you can see the gains. And you can see Hulkenberg as well. He's going to go side by side with his teammate again, as Ocon actually overtakes Ricciardo, and Ricciardo's battling with Ocon. So you probably ought to look at that battle. So the Force Indians have already caught up to the Red Bulls. Of course, Max Verstappen and Ricciardo also struggling in the pits. So the Force Indians are now trying to get the Red Bulls. But you can see that's Perez around the outside of Ocon. There's so much in-swabbling with these teams that there's no... Oh my goodness, as soon as you as soon as you put equal cars, the teammates just squabble like cat and dog. And here's the Force Indians back at it again. And you can see that's actually Perez who's overtaken Ocon. So really interesting stuff. But you see Hamilton, a 10-second gap over Leclerc, who's now coming under attack from Bottas. So can it be a Mercedes 1-2, even so it is equal cars? That'll be interesting. And Raikkonen completely off the back of Bottas. So yeah, I think Raikkonen's just been really saved by the pit lane, but he will be in P4 quite comfortably, because Verstappen, unfortunately... Van
Dorn is so annoying.
But Perez is DNF'd, and just as he was battling with Ocon, he is going to fall through the gaps. He's not really going to let his teammate pass. He keeps cutting across his teammate. He's finally going to let his teammate pass, and that's allowed Vettel to close in bits. And it also might mean the Renaults close back in to the Force India. Meanwhile, as we scroll back down, Alonso really struggling this race, down in P17. So I don't know what's happened there, but you can see there's a bit of a train all the way up to P8 really. So there's still probably a train to the back, apart from the back. Marcus Ericsson is well behind. But right now, Vettel has his own little Trulli train. And talking about Trulli trains, you can see Sainz is going to get past Vettel, and Hulkenberg's also going to see if he can follow him through. There's something really wrong with the championship protagonist, as he drops outside. Well, he's actually still in the points, considering I think Perez retired, but he's now at the tail end of the points. As you see, Sainz is overtaking him, and Gasly is also right behind Vettel. And both Toro Rossos now, we're going to see if they can get past the driver of Sebastian Vettel. As we go near the front though, you can see Bottas is all over the back of Leclerc. He hasn't been able to make a move yet, but Leclerc 10 seconds behind Hamilton. So even though he's doing absolute wonders, is the young Monegasque driver, he still is no match for the likes of Hamilton and probably Vettel as well. Vettel had a good pit stop and didn't have issues, but yeah, Vettel definitely has issues because he's now been overtaken by Gasly. So it's a bit like yeah, Vettel is dropping through the order very quickly, and there's only a matter of time before even the backs of the train, including Shadi Onyx, will be able to get him. So you can see Hartley as well, right in the back of him. So as Shadi Onyx actually gets Van Dorn, you can see on board of him now. He's up into 15th place, so it hasn't been a good race for him, but he still might be able to salvage points. Of course, this train extends all the way back to Ocon, who's now dropped 4 seconds off the back of Ricciardo. So I don't know what's happened there. Oh yes, of course, he was held up by his teammate Sergio Perez when Perez retired. But you see Verstappen and Ricciardo 3 seconds behind Raikkonen.
For God's sake, Grosjean just smashed me off.
And Bottas is still 5 tenths behind Leclerc. So Leclerc still should be able to get a podium because the Red Bull drivers are nowhere. And yeah, Verstappen could have easily been P2. So could have Vettel. But both of them have sort of had botched pit stops and mechanical issues. So as a result, Leclerc, after getting P2 in qualifying, is looking like he might hold that P2. So absolute wonders from the Monegasque driver, and yeah, he's definitely the game definitely rates him highly, like as they should, as there's more squabbling between the Renault's drivers as Vettel finally is gaining position. So I don't know what's happening there. Vettel's actually got both Toro Rossos back as Sainz finally gets the measure of his teammate again, and you see Vettel has got Gasly, and he thinks his issues are back, so he might be able to make a late charge. He's back into the points, and you never know, Vettel could still get P8. As you can see, there's actually Gasly up the inside of Vettel as we actually go on to Nico Hulkenberg, going around the outside of Sainz. This is not a place you want to make a move. Around the outside, that's going to give him the inside for this corner. Somehow, he's actually managed to pull it off, as Carlos Sainz is still holding it around the outside. But Hulkenberg managing to pull off a wondrous move, and that is a beautiful move by Hulkenberg. If I say so myself. Meanwhile, Vettel has managed to hold up from Gasly, or so I say. Of course, the Red Bull driver for next year, Gasly, is one of the top drivers, so I would have expected him to be a bit higher, but he's trying to put a move around the outside of the 4-time world champion. Vettel's going to try to hold it around the outside, and this is nail-biting stuff. Vettel, of course, his car is finally actually working the way it should, but still, he has to defend from Gasly, and he's managed to do that. So yeah, Shady Onyx unfortunately got more front wing damage, so it looks like he's going to be confined to the to 15th place. But yeah, and it's been a really interesting race so far. As you can see, there's actually a yellow flag, and I think that's Shady Onyx again, if I'm not mistaken. He's in the wall. He's taking Alonso with him, and yeah, both their races have gone pretty much terribly because they're now behind Ericsson. So yeah, Shady Onyx will just be trying to finish. Of course, as Alonso gets a 5-second stop go for a collision with Shady Onyx. So yeah, Alonso is not having a good time, but you can see Bottas is actually ahead of Leclerc. So as we head into the final few laps, Leclerc actually losing out on his P2, but he's still in the podium position. But he's going to try to get Bottas straight back. He's going to go for the inside line as they're now 12 seconds behind Hamilton. But here comes Leclerc up the inside. Bottas is going to try to hold it around the outside. Sorry, as I actually switched to Hamilton by accident. Of course, there's no point looking at him. He's completely won this race unless he blows up. No need to jinx him. Malaysia 2016 there. But you see Bottas gets Leclerc. But Leclerc's still there. Leclerc's still on the outside. You see, the Renaults don't stop fighting. But this is the battle which we're focused on. The battle for P2. Leclerc around the outside. What a drive. But somehow Bottas is holding on to P2. And that's actually surprising. I thought he was sort of carried by his machinery in real life. But he is proving that he is a good driver. But Leclerc is trying to prove that he's a better driver. This is not where you want to overtake, son. And he backs out wisely. He's now got Raikkonen all over the back of him, but sure enough, they will have the DRS on Bottas, so they should be able to make a move on him there. But you can see Sainz and Hulkenberg as well. Hulkenberg finally gets the measure of Sainz, as Gasly's now back ahead of Vettel. So even though Vettel's car seems to be working, he still is dropping through the field, so it's not been a good race for Vettel. No, as we skip to the front again, you can see Leclerc actually dropped a bit off Bottas, so he might not be able to get Bottas on the straight. And of course he's got the DRS on Bottas. Raikkonen's got the DRS on him. Will Raikkonen be able to get Bottas as well? No, but Leclerc cleanly gets Bottas, and Raikkonen's going to go for a little peek. But as we go with less than 3 laps, well, just over 3 laps, well, just less than 3 laps remaining now as Hamilton crosses the line, Leclerc is still in P2. So is a Monegasque driver doing absolute wonders. Meanwhile, the Red Bull drivers a bit off the pace, but they have been reeling in Raikkonen. You can see the gap was about 3 seconds. It is now down to about 2 seconds as Ocon is dropped. Well, basically he is in the middle of nowhere. 5 seconds off the back of Ricciardo, 4 seconds ahead of Hulkenberg, who is actually beginning to pull a bit on his teammate. So finally the battle is stopped between those two. But meanwhile, Vettel is trying to get Gasly again. Of course, he does want that point because every point will help, considering he will be. Well, I hope he'll be a championship antagonist, but meanwhile, right at the back, Fernando Alonso, 30 seconds behind last place, and it's not going well for him at all, considering I would have expected him to be a top 5 driver. Shady Onyx as well, again, I would have expected him to do well, but there's no excuse for Marcus Ericsson. I mean, he has had no issues at all. He's still 9 seconds behind Stoffel Vandoorne, who's also dropped off the face of the planet. I thought Vandoorne was in 9th place at one point, so yeah, he's actually been overtaken by both Haas drivers, so I haven't really been paying attention there. But you can see Vettel all over the back of Gasly, and Bottas as well, going to be all over the back of Leclerc as we go down this long straight again. And it looks like these guys just keep on chopping and changing positions, and as a result you can see Verstappen is within nearly a second of these guys, so it could go down to the wire at the battle of P2. Hamilton is now 14 seconds ahead as Bottas will get Leclerc. Well, Raikkonen's nowhere, but Leclerc will slip back behind Bottas, and it's almost like them DRS training each other. It's actually pulling them away from Raikkonen, as you see once again Bottas will stretch his legs, but yeah, actually Leclerc's dropped a bit further behind than usual, but yeah, Leclerc still with a good shout of the podium, as he actually drops within to outside 6/10 of Bottas. Meanwhile, Verstappen is nearly in DRS range as we enter the penultimate lap, so Verstappen has done really well, and it just sort of shows that he could have been there in the top 3. He still is going to be fighting for a podium, even after a horrible pit stop, which lost him about 6 seconds. So really well, good there. Good stuff from the Netherlands, the Dutch chap Verstappen, just showing how much of a good driver he is. But he's got Ricciardo all over the back of him still, as they actually all train up. So that should be really interesting in the last lap. And Sainz looks like he's finally given up on Hulkenberg. He should be able to have 1 or 2 more chances, but for now he is a bit too far back to make any moves as such. I think the closest gaps are the ones out front. As we go a bit further behind, you can see Stoffel Vandoorne as well, behind Grosjean, but nothing really much happening there. Of course, they're in the sort of DRS train, so everything's neutralised, but the battle is the one out front. As we go on board with Lewis Hamilton, he is nowhere to be seen. But you can see, here we go again, Alonso sets the fastest lap, So once again proving that he is a top 5 driver. He's just so far behind everyone else, as Ericsson's now 11.2 seconds behind Van Dorn. That is absolutely atrocious. And yeah, I don't really think he deserves to be in the sport, to be honest, as Leclerc not close enough to actually capitalise on Bottas, but at the same time Raikkonen nowhere to be seen against Leclerc, and Verstappen is right behind Raikkonen. Verstappen might actually be able to get P4, and that will be an immense recovery for Verstappen. Of course, he is one of the best drivers on the grid, and arguably been shot in the foot. He had a chance to really claim that P2. Of course, Hamilton has been untouched the whole race, but Verstappen, yeah, he could have been up there in P2, well ahead of Bottas. But Bottas has sort of benefited from the pit stops, and of course Raikkonen has definitely benefited from 11th on the grid. He's sort of been sort of saved by that safety car, but you can see Vettel is actually into number 10 now, as Venton Hartley now gets ahead of Pierre Gasly. So it's all going wrong for Gasly on the final lap. He was in P10, he's now down to P12. He's going to try to fight his teammate as they go side by side. You can see Leclerc is out of DRS range of Bottas, so it looks like Bottas will get P2, Leclerc will get P3, but it should be close still for the battle for P3. But you can see the last point, the best of the rest outside the points, and it is going to be Hartley who actually has the better of Gasly, but Gasly's still going to have a tyre up the inside. He's going to see if he can force it through. Hartley on the outside, Gasly on the inside. Gasly makes the move, but he's now going to have to hang it around the outside, and Hartley does get the position, as Gasly will now have the inside line, and that is they're still side by side, but unfortunately we have to focus on the battle up front, which is between Raikkonen and Leclerc, because I don't think Verstappen is close enough to Raikkonen to make a move, and Raikkonen is not close enough on Leclerc. I think Leclerc should be able to hang on to a podium. Also, I think Raikkonen's going to pull to the inside last minute. Will he dash the long Monegasque hopes of a podium? Charles Leclerc's done so well all race, but he's going to get overtaken on the final straight. Will he be able to throw it up the inside? Can he defend P3? He's going to up the inside. He's going to try, and he actually forces Raikkonen out. He's going to defend it. What a dramatic end to the race. Leclerc will get P3. What a race from him to get a podium. Vettel will get P10, the last of the points position, as Brendan Hartley has completely lost out on the final lap. The Haas driver is actually having quite a good strong finish, so they could have actually been fighting for the points, all things considered, and Van Dorn will finish just behind them. And yeah, there's nothing I can say about this driver. Ericsson, I mean, at least Shani Onyx and Alonso have an excuse, and Alonso has been going the fastest the last few laps. Marcus Ericsson has no excuse, 12 seconds behind Van Dorn. That's nearly as big as the gap between Hamilton and Bottas, but what a race by Hamilton, a second a lap faster than everyone else, and Shani Onyx will bin it in the wall. That's not a race he will like to remember. He's going to reverse across the line. Can he beat Alonso? That's the question. My guess is yes, because Alonso still is going through the final hairpin, but yeah, while Shani Onyx is reversing across the line, we'll be able to actually have a look at the full order. But what a race there, and Leclerc doing absolute wonders to defend his position on the last lap. He was completely done by Raikkonen, but then he dived up the inside of the last corner and beat him in the run to the line. So what a podium. And yeah, that's a face you probably should be getting used to seeing, because next year he will be up there. He is such a talented driver, and of course, Verstappen could have easily dropped him out of the podium spots, and so could have Vettel. But it is what it is, and Bottas, in the end, getting that P2 after starting quite low down, I think. So that is the final podium. Hamilton, a dominant win, and it's actually a Mercedes 1-2 from the young Monegasque driver who gets P3. So as we actually skip onto the race results, you can see Hamilton wins over Bottas. 14.6 seconds the gap in the end, but Bottas himself was able to pull a 2.5 second gap to Charles Leclerc. Kimi Räikkönen in 4th place, just ahead of Verstappen. That also went down to a photo finish in the end. Ricciardo again 2 tenths behind them, so the battle for P3 really tight, all within a second of each other. So that's what we like to see. Ocon gets best of the race in P7, 5 seconds behind Ricciardo in the end, but he was sort of in no man's land. And again, 5 seconds behind him was Nico Hülkenberg, in the end getting the measure of his teammate after an amazing battle between the two, if I say so myself. Then you got Sebastian Vettel. It just shows the pace he had. He was able to pull 3 seconds clear of Pierre Gasly in the last 2 laps, so he too could have been competing for the front runners, with the front runners. Pierre Gasly as well. Actually getting P11 in the end, falling from 8th on the grid. Magnussen and Grosjean, 2 gainers, they both gained 3 positions, and at the bottom you've got the usual suspects: Hartley, Van Dorn and Ericsson, also known as the deadwood of the sport. Unfortunately, Alonso and Shady Onyx came to blows a few times, and Sergio Perez was the only non-finisher, apart from myself, obviously, because I'm spectating. So, my drive of the day would definitely be to Charles Leclerc. He lost a position, but to get P3 is really exceptional. Even so, a big mover was definitely Ocon and Hulkenberg, who both gained 6 positions, so well done to them. So as you go on to the standings, nothing really interesting. It's just basically the order they finished in. So as we go on to the constructors to finish up, Mercedes completely dominant out front. Ahead of Red Bull, it was slightly ahead of Alfa Romeo Sauber, who in turn ahead of Ferrari. But you can see as well, Force India and Renault also doing a good job. But that's going to be it for a really exciting Chinese Grand Prix. See you for round 2, which is at Azerbaijan.